All right, so if we take a look at this diagram over here, this is something that you may have made already in class or you will be making very soon. You can make it a lot more fancy than this, of course. This is just your basic setup. What you're trying to do here is to create an ecosystem inside a little jar. It can be tiny, you can make it as big as you can physically handle until the water gets a little bit too heavy. But the main idea here is you're trying to create a self-sustaining ecosystem that's completely closed off. So you can see here it's sealed up at the top. It can be an aquatic ecosystem or it can be a terrestrial ecosystem. It's up to you, but the idea is you have to plan this ahead of time to try to make sure that it is fully self-sustaining. And so in this really basic example here, you can see there are some plants or some autotrophs in here. If you've added some soil, obviously the soil will have some bacteria or some fungi in there, which is going to fulfill the role of the kind of decomposers in the ecosystem. Specifically, they would be the detritivores and saprotrophs. And that's it. And all you got to do is make sure that the container is actually clear. You know why? Because you want to be able to allow sunlight to be able to get in. If you close it off with no sunlight, obviously you're going to cut off the ability for these producers or plants to actually do photosynthesis and make their own food, and that'd be really sad. And you don't want to get a little bit too ambitious and throw in a few fish in there. If you understand what a pyramid of energy is, if you've studied this in the ecosystem unit already, you'll understand that you need a larger biomass of producers at the bottom to support such an ecosystem, and then up towards the top you only have a few very high level kind of secondary or tertiary level consumers. So obviously you're not going to get too crazy with this and then try to put little fish, then big fish, then throw a shark inside. You just want to be able to demonstrate this on a small scale. Also, it won't be too ethical to put a bunch of organisms in there that you know this ecosystem is not going to be able to support. So that's the idea. And a mini ecosystem such as this, we call it a mesocosm. And so one of the questions you can ask yourself is, why is it a good idea to build mesocosms? Or why should scientists study mesocosms? So just a few bullet points here. I think basically what we discussed, if you understood the main point, test yourself, go through, draw yourself a little picture like this, and then try to explain the different things that are necessary into going into something like this. So here are the points that I'm trying to make here. Ecosystems, large ecosystems like the ones that we live in, have the potential to be sustainable as long as nutrients can be recycled and we have an energy source available. So for most living organisms in all of the ecosystems that we understand and know about, the sun is our primary source. So we all understand that if the sun disappears, eventually we will die as well too. Actually, pretty quickly we will die as well too. You also need some way to be able to break down waste. And so all of these things are kind of set up in a little mini ecosystem or a mesocosm just like this. So the concepts that make ecosystems self-sustainable need to be thought about when you're setting something like this up as well too. Okay, so this is what we're saying. A mesocosm can be set up to demonstrate what an ecosystem is on a small scale. It's a small experimental area, so different universities and research centers can do this on a larger scale than what you can do. All you got to do is get a plastic bottle or a bottle, make sure you can actually seal it off at the top. If you're having trouble sealing it, you can go crazy with duct tape, or you can put some Vaseline if you've got a glass jar with a little top that just sits up there as well too. We talked about putting autotrophs in there to be able to produce carbon compounds through photosynthesis. Oxygen is going to be a byproduct of that, and so that's going to support some of the bacteria in there as well too. Theoretically, it could help support larger organisms, but I'm telling you right now, it's not going to work. So even if you think you can put one or two ghost shrimp in there, unless you've got a large enough ecosystem with a huge balance of enough producers to be able to do that, it's just not worth it. And especially if you're trying to base a larger investigation off of what you're doing with the mesocosm, you really want to make sure that you have a strong balance there. But it's probably going to be a bad idea in the long run based on violation of ethical practices, especially at our level here in the IB and based on the IB animal experimentation policy. So don't do it. If you've got some soil in there, make sure it's not soil that's been microwaved or boiled so you don't kill all the microorganisms that are in there. You need those microorganisms to do the decomposing, the saprotrophs and the detritivores, to actually help to recycle a lot of the nutrients that you need. This point says here that consumers may not be essential, but are usually included. This is on a much larger scale if you're actually doing this for a research institute. If you're doing it on your own, don't throw in any obvious consumers just because you want to have a little pet that you can say hello to, like Nemo or the new Dory. And as I said before, don't use large animals. It's just unethical, and you will be sad as a 4-year-old whose fish just died. So, ending on this question, what purposes do mesocosms actually serve when we're trying to understand the world?